As the manager of a transportation agency with employees who may come into contact with harmful materials and waste in the workplace, I want each and every one of you to pay close attention to the important information this Transportation Workers Waste and Harmful Materials Awareness Training Program has to offer. As you go about your jobs of designing, constructing, and maintaining transportation facilities, you need to be aware of the health and safety risks of the harmful materials you may use or accidentally encounter. When using potentially harmful materials or working around them, you must always follow the manufacturer's instructions and standard health and safety precautions. If you unexpectedly encounter hazardous materials or waste when working in the field, keep your distance and immediately report your findings to your supervisor. Also, I want you to know that this awareness training program itself will not equip you to work with harmful materials and waste. Much more intensive waste management training is needed before you use, store, handle, or dispose of those materials which may threaten two of your most precious possessions, your health and safety. Thank you.
On any given day, you're involved in a lot of different construction activities. Some of these could expose you to harmful materials. Our mission in this tape is to help you be more aware of the presence of common harmful materials. And by being more aware, you may better protect your health and safety by minimizing your exposure to harmful materials. You're probably aware of some of the harmful materials and situations connected with your job. So here's a quick quiz to get you started. We're going to show you some construction activities. Which do you think is likely to expose you to harmful materials? Bridge blast cleaning, bridge welding, excavation, and finally, stream relocation. Okay, which one did you choose?
Well, you could have chosen bridge blast cleaning because of the possibility of spreading, inhaling, or ingesting lead-contaminated particles or fumes. So that's a possible right answer. Bridge steel welding is another possible choice because of the fumes which can be released by the welding process. During excavation, anything from a buried waste dump to a storage tank could be uncovered. And you never know what you'll find in a stream. So that's a definite possibility also.
This is the kind of quiz that everyone loves. No matter which activity you selected, you get a passing grade. All the possibilities could, now let me emphasize that again, could expose you to harmful materials. That does not mean that your jobs are unsafe. It means that you need to know more about the presence of harmful materials and situations, know what to do to protect yourself, and know how to do the job correctly. Why? Our industrial society has done an excellent job of leaving harmful materials behind. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency lists Pennsylvania second in the country in Superfund waste sites. And what about unidentified sites? There may be plenty of those too. Harmful materials can be found anywhere, on state highway rights-of-way, in active or abandoned buildings, even in unexpected places like rural or busy locations. And don't forget about the products you use in your work. They're useful, yes, but some are harmful and require you to follow safety precautions. What we're dealing with here is a case of the known and unknown. If you're working with solvents or fuels, known harmful products, there are precautions to follow. But what about the unknown? The buried waste site, the seemingly harmless trash, or the unmarked materials found along stream banks. If you suspect the presence of a harmful material, what do? In these and similar situations, we'll give you guidance, because some materials may be harmful to your health and safety if you don't take proper precautions. When we say harmful materials and wastes, we mean substances that could pose a risk to your health or safety or the environment. Most harmful materials are in solid or liquid form. Such materials may become more harmful if you breathe fumes created by mixing or using some chemicals, or when you allow vapors to escape, for example from opening containers which may harbor harmful materials, or when you stir up dust, which you could breathe or carry with you on your clothes. Now that we've covered the basics, let's take a look at some real work situations. Take a look around at a typical bridge blast cleaning job and you can find many possible harmful material situations. How many can you find here? Let's review what we just saw. Bridge blast cleaning creates dust, which could contain lead, a harmful material.
Since inhalation of a harmful material is one of the easiest ways for a contaminant to enter your body, you should use a respirator. Protective clothing is also important to keep harmful materials away from your skin. Even though you're just walking through a contaminated area quickly, wearing all proper protective gear is essential. Any exposure to lead particles could be dangerous to your health.
Now, a few people they got lead poison. I don't know why, because they didn't wear no respirators or because, see, this system we're using right here is the steel shot. We're using the same material over and over. Now, the unit that we're using, it doesn't clean it 100%. There's always the dust left in there. And the finer the dust is, the easier it is for you to breathe or go through your skin.
Remember also that whatever outer garments you wear at a contaminated area must be left at the job site. For example, if lead-contaminated dust shakes off in your car, house, or washing machine, your family members could be exposed to health-threatening lead levels. Eating or drinking anywhere near the dusty area is prohibited. Even smoking in the area raises the chance that you'll swallow lead present on your cigarette or your hand. Wash your hands before you eat, drink, or smoke. You should also be aware that bridge blast cleaning can contaminate the surrounding area. Lead-filled dust may have fallen on the earth, vegetation, and in the water. Remember, if you see situations where you or other workers could be or are being exposed, communicate your concerns immediately to those in charge who need to know. Even if the workers are employed by another organization, make sure they're informed. Follow up your communications to ensure that they're reaching the right people.
And when we see someone out there doing something that bothers us, that we feel that you should have eyeglasses on, you should have a respirator on, you should have steel-toed shoes on, because you could get hurt. We can't tell the contractor's people exactly, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. That's the contractor's responsibility. Our responsibility is to go to the contractors and let them know that they need to do something about this.
Bridge steel cutting and welding also provide health concerns to any personnel in close proximity of the work. Steel cutting and welding melt the treatment coatings and the metal itself, releasing fumes into the air. This is a known hazard, so if you're inspecting bridge steel welding, wear proper protective clothing and a proper respirator to minimize your exposure.
A man could be working with an arc welder and he's welding 6 to 8 hours a day, and it's a continuous flow of fumes from the burning welding rod. And over a period of years in our trade, I've known of people that had lung conditions from continued welding.
In addition to the concern for contamination of streams from bridge blast cleaning, be aware that stream contamination is also likely from industrial discharge or illegal dumping into the stream itself. For your own safety, be on your guard and wear proper personal safety gear when in these areas to reduce your risk of exposure.
So no matter whether you're dealing with a known harmful situation or come upon unexpected hazards, know the proper action to take. Check the contractor's safety program available in the inspector's office file to compare the precautions and protective equipment described for the operation with what is actually being used. If the safety program is not being followed, advise the foreman. If his response is unsatisfactory, advise your supervisor also. If you have any suspicions of the presence of harmful materials, advise the contractor. If you see violations of procedure in situations where harmful materials are present, such as lack of protective gear, advise the contractor. In addition, report the situation to the assistant construction engineer and the district project safety officer immediately. And seek medical attention if you think you have been exposed. Remember, as an inspector, you are responsible for monitoring and enforcing environmental protection, health, and safety procedures and reporting violations to the district.
Okay, let's take a look at how you can identify the presence of harmful materials or wastes. Your most important tools are your senses. Your sense of sight is your best tool, not just to look, but to really observe any possible danger signs, like buried drums or pieces of metal, discolored soil or water. Your sense of smell and touch should be used carefully. Be cautious about inhaling any fumes or dust. If it's not necessary to touch unknown substances, don't do it. Wear gloves and proper protective gear if you do. Most of all, use the control center for your senses, your brain. Be suspicious of anything out of the ordinary. Think before you act. What happens if you are exposed without proper protection? How do contaminants enter your body? It could occur through inhalation. Entry by breathing is the easiest method. Or through ingestion, by eating or drinking. Wash your hands thoroughly after exposure and before eating or drinking. Or through dermal absorption, by absorption through the skin or an open wound. In all of these major exposure situations, contaminants are picked up by the blood and carried throughout the body to areas where effects may be felt immediately or later. While the effects of exposures are not the same for everyone, there are two important factors that will normally affect you. The first is dose. Both the length of exposure and the amount of concentration of the exposure are important. Obviously, as these get more severe, so will the effect on you. The effects of some poisons, however, may not be noticeable immediately and so are especially dangerous. Lead poisoning, for example, accumulates in the brain and organs and may not bother you until after permanent physical damage has occurred. So the rationalization of, I've been doing this job for years and I'm just as healthy as the next guy, can be fooling yourself. When the effects of the accumulation become obvious, it may be too late to hope for recovery. The second factor affecting you is the type of contaminant. There are acids and caustics, which irritate, poisons, which attack a particular organ or nerves, carcinogens, which cause cancer, asphyxiants, which displace oxygen and cause suffocation, and medical waste and sewage, which can cause infection. We've talked about the known harmful material dangers in bridge blast cleaning. Another common activity which presents you with the presence of possible unknown hazards is excavation. When you're inspecting ongoing excavation work, be thinking about the possibility of uncovering unseen harmful materials. One possibility is unexpectedly finding illegally dumped materials on the surface. Such materials could contain anything, and therefore could be harmful to you and those nearby. Another possibility, and a bigger unknown, is what lies below the surface. Excavation activities are conducted hundreds of times a year. If you perform an activity often enough, you can almost do it without thinking. That's exactly what we don't want you to do. When inspecting excavation jobs, think about the possible presence of unseen harmful materials before the work begins. There are possible utility lines, underground storage tanks, and buried waste. The dangers are real and severe. Examples of these dangers are explosion and contamination from fumes emanating from leaking tanks or buried waste. Suppose you come upon an excavation site where buried drums, tanks, or pipelines have just been discovered. What do you do? First, make sure the operator knows about the objects and takes precautions to avoid rupture. Secondly, inform the contractor supervisor about the problem. Another common contamination, and one often overlooked, is soil contaminated with petroleum products. This type of contamination can pose a hazard to groundwater and to our drinking water. Excavation, for example, of stormwater pipes may take place near an existing or abandoned gas station, oil, or gas wells. This soil may be contaminated with carcinogenic compounds like benzene or other substances resulting from petroleum leakage. Such pollution is a serious problem. All of this means that you have to be on guard for obvious clues and known hazards. Stressed vegetation or a dead animal could be a clue. But keep in mind the chance that you'll come upon an unexpected and unseen problem. This could be in an attractive area or even one in use, like a park or lake. A lack of visual clues does not eliminate the presence of harmful materials or wastes, so be ready to take the proper action.
I think sometimes it's easier to ignore something thinking that it will go away or it doesn't really matter or this is the way we've always done things or something of that nature, when it could really be dangerous to someone's health.
Well, some people think that, nothing will happen to them, and then they find out that they can't do that.
Most of the workers out here take a lot for granted. They neglect themselves. They don't seem to realize that what they're doing could affect them for the rest of their life.
Now that you know more about the dangers of harmful materials, let's take a look at some additional construction activities where they may be present. Deep trenches, culverts, and some inlets are considered confined work areas. You may be involved in this kind of work often, but you should never take these possible hazards for granted. Gases and fumes from harmful materials can accumulate in these areas. Before entering any of them, be on your guard. If you suspect a problem, don't enter. Investigating such an area should be done by qualified people with proper protective gear. You should remember, too, that closed roads seem to be convenient places for illegal dumping. Even household garbage bags could contain harmful materials. And of course, red garbage bags are used for medical waste and should be reported immediately to the on-site contractor supervisor.
Indiana 35, Indiana Garage, we discovered some medical waste out along Little
Be careful not to spill or splash chemicals while you're mixing, pouring, or applying them. These products have warning labels and directions on them. Detailed directions are there for a reason. Follow them to the letter.
If you see violations of procedure in situations where harmful materials are present, such as lack of protective gear, advise the contractor.
Avoid spilling fuel whether you're refilling your vehicle at the garage or on the road. Gasoline and diesel fuel are so common, we forget that they can be harmful. Fuels can be absorbed through the skin. Their vapors are toxic and explosive. Soil contaminated with fuels should be cleaned up immediately.
Now that you have a new appreciation for the dangers of harmful materials and wastes, and for how you can minimize your own and your fellow workers' risks, put this new appreciation to work. Your on-the-job experience is invaluable. use it, along with the information we have provided you, to reduce your exposure to harmful materials. Be on guard, no matter what activity you're involved in. When you get right down to it, it's your brain that's your first line of defense. Think out situations. In known harmful situations, such as in the use of hazardous products, read the manufacturer's directions and the manufacturer's safety data sheets, or MSDS, and follow them. Wear personal protection equipment if that's what's necessary. Protect yourself from unknown harmful situations by seeking any information available to you before you go out on the job. On site, use your senses, but be especially careful about inhaling fumes or dust or touching unknown materials. As you know now, harmful materials can be found anywhere, even in the most unlikely places. And often the presence of these materials goes unrecorded. So stay alert. Just because a location is isolated and looks clean, that's no guarantee of the absence of harmful materials. Or just because a location is in constant use, that's no guarantee of the absence of harmful materials either. It may be that highway construction and inspection activities will be the very thing that disturbs such materials and makes them active. Yes, be on your guard, but keep your perspective. You can work safely and minimize your risk. If you suspect the presence of waste, the most important thing you can do is communicate the information immediately to your supervisor and your district safety officer. It's better to over-communicate than to let some harmful situations go undetected.